Hey, Marcus, do we talk about eating people in this episode?
Yes.
Okay, so should we put a disclaimer, Brett?
I think this is it. Disclaimer. We're going to talk about eating humans, not us.
Not us eating humans. People eating humans.
So don't listen with your kids in the car.
Bingo.
Or while you're eating.
For sure. Welcome to The Cover, where three Hoosier friends judge books by their covers and movies by their trailers.
That's right. I'm Brett, here with my fellow Indiana natives, Remington and Marcus, ready to dive into the stories that keep us up all night and occasionally put us to sleep.
Whether you're a bookworm, movie buff, or just here for the witty banter, we've got you covered.
Each week, we'll dissect a different book or movie, sharing fun facts, hot takes, and moments that make Marcus cry. Spoiler alert, we're not experts, but we're definitely opinionated.
From literary masterpieces to blockbuster flops, nothing is safe from our snarky reviews and wild tangents. Who knew Hoosiers could be this entertaining?
So grab your popcorn and reading glasses because we're about to embark on a hilarious journey through the pages and screens that shape our lives. Or at least our weekends.
You're listening to The Cover. Let's get the show on the road before one of our kids wakes up.
All right, boys. What's new? I think Marcus.
Yeah, I got
got
some
some-
what's new.
Yeah, you got.
I got
something new?
I got some what's new.
No
So,
way.
Driving around. I'm
7?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
Just checking.
1 in 1,000 chance.
Yes.
Next episode.
I guess that's kind of new too for some people in the room. But anyway, I'm driving around and I'm seeing these massive Halloween decorations everywhere, right? Like in people's yards.
I've seen some pretty sweet ones this year.
Yeah, they're huge though. They're crazy. They're big.
What percentage of people that decorate for Halloween don't decorate for Christmas?
So I asked Riley this. And is it I think some of the people they don't decorate for Christmas, so they go really big Halloween because maybe they don't celebrate
That's
Christmas.
just not a good look. Like maybe those people like are fine or
But
whatever.
I think most
it's
of
pretty
them,
interesting if
most
you're
of
gonna
them are
decorate.
big time for both. Is my guess. Like if you're big Halloween, you're big Christmas.
We got some.
Here's my thing. Like, what do you do with that? Like, I was driving down Meridian, and I get like these houses are pretty big, so they probably just like either pay to have it stored or paid somebody to put it up there.
I'm willing to
take
bet
it
there are
down or
people that
whatever.
live like right. You're talking just north of 38th Street.
Yeah.
Like I'm guaranteeing there are people that own those homes that the Halloween decorations go up and go down, and they never even saw them.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, for sure.
I just it's like, where do you keep these?
Oh, because they're
Oh, the
rich.
big-
I'm like, where do
Because
you?
they have lots of money and they pay people to do it.
Yes.
Well, no, because they might not be there. It's like winter. They might be in Florida or something.
They
like that.
pay someone to decorate their house
That they're not staying
that
at.
they're
right
not
now.
staying
I
at.
bet there's at least a couple
on
of those
Doctors
situations.
Row on Meridian.
I would
I
bet
don't
so.
know. I was just driving down Meridian, and
Where do they? Your question is.
My
storage.
question is storage. Fine. These decorations are cool, but like, are you paying to keep these somewhere
I'm telling you,
all year
if
long?
if what Brett is saying is true, they donate it after they're done. They
Or
buy it and then they. I'm dead serious.
There are companies like light. You guys have seen the lights. People put up lights. They put up the lights. They take them down. They store them.
That's true.
So-
That's true. There is companies that will do that for Christmas. I'm assuming they do it for Halloween. I'm not that guy, so I don't know for sure.
Now here, I'm
That's
not a fan of the big stand-up skeletons, but I saw one at Prime Car Wash where it's just the top half of the skeleton coming out of the ground.
Oh.
That was cool.
Yeah, and you save it's like 50%
I mean,
off.
we have like some Halloween decorations. We used to
You
have
do?
more. Jessica loves Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah. So like if she could, she'd have just crazy amounts. But like, I'm not gonna pay to store these somewhere.
Yeah.
Like that bothers
We
me.
were taking
telling
a
you.
walk after dinner, and we're noticing all the Halloween decorations. They're fun. And Riley goes, "Oh gosh." And I turn, and there's this skeleton vomiting into this toxic waste, like with like spouting like water running through
Yes.
it. It was
Oh, that's
awesome.
great.
Yeah,
It was
they're
great.
cool.
Yeah,
But like,
Your storage question
you're
is
trying really hard.
yeah.
Like, what do you-
Like Christmas is lights. you can store lights easily.
Pretty
You get-
easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people go, but for the Halloween, like the big spiders.
It is a great business idea, though. If you think about like staging, like it's an element of staging.
Yeah.
So it's like same type of business model.
Yeah, if you could get cheap storage.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, storage is cheap. So like if it's your business, you could find cheap storage to do that.
I think it really does come down to the storage. This is I've got a warehouse. I've got one business.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
I've got X amount of square footage left. I need to do
Yeah.
something with it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the birthday signs that people put in their yards or the
Yeah.
yeah
exactly.
I mean, those are $100 for a day. I know
man.
because I spent $300 this year on those. Yeah. But I guarantee that's what it is for some people. Because I know I'm not even on that level, but I'll buy a pair of pants, and if they don't fit, I just donate them.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to take the time. I
To
know
take
that's
it
bad.
back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brett tells me
I
it's
feel
easy.
that.
He takes it to Whole Foods.
Yeah, you go to Whole Foods, Ulta. There's lots of options.
I thought that was just Amazon. But
Oh, like if you buy it off Amazon?
that's where I buy clothes. I don't go.
Really?
I don't go into.
See-
When's the last time you tried on a pair of pants in a retail shop?
Whenever I bought pants last.
Right. So like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So-
I if I'm buying Lululemon, I don't go to the fashion mall all the time. That's like a big. That's not a. I don't think that's a. If you buy in store though, then you do try them on because that's not a UPS situation where they're shipping back to you.
I don't even do that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I do take them back. Oh, are you saying like I do?
I'm
take
saying
them
that's
back.
why I would try them on because I don't want to have to go through the hassle of going all the way.
yeah, I just take them back because I know I'm going to be back.
I
the
mean, at
next
Nordstrom
weekend.
Rack, you're paying like 1/6 of the price anyway. So
Hey,
that
you got
one,
a new Nordstrom Rack by you.
that
Yeah.
Hamilton
It is
Nordstrom
nice.
Rack is legit.
I actually liked it. I went in there right before we got to your house and spent.
So what's there right now? Is it summer stuff? Is that?
No, fall.
I just always remember going in February to purchase for the upcoming trip that was going to be cold.
It's already next
and like you
phase.
saving so much money.
Oh, because they have it on
Correct.
clearance.
Because it was right before.
Clearance, Mrs. Dorrance.
Welcome to the Puver Podcast. Cover Podcast. I'm your host Brett Wiggins. As always,
Hey,
to
Brett.
my left is
Marcus Megas. Sorry, buddy.
okay.
and sitting to my right, who will never be found with Halloween decorations in his home, Sir.
Remington Ramsey.
Unless he can pay someone to do it.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't say never say never.
Never. Say,
I like Halloween. We dress up a lot. We go
No,
to
no.
parties. We just don't decorate our lawn.
Everybody got family situation. You do
We
family
love
costumes.
family costumes.
We do family. We don't always do family costumes, but everybody's got a costume typically that is part of someone else's. Marcus, are you guys family? No family
I
costume.
think Halloween's like the most overrated thing.
Do you don't dress up?
No.
You never?
No.
So do it once. Do
No.
it one time, and then you won't think that because it's so fun.
Here's what I like. I have my candy. I put my fire ring out in my driveway.
Oh,
I
that
sit
is fun.
there and I hand out
Drinking
candy to
Angry
the
Balls?
children. I hand out candy to the children while they're coming around.
That is fun.
Yeah.
That's
fun.
that's like I enjoy that. But Halloween, so I think that when I was a little kid, I wasn't allowed to celebrate Halloween.
Same.
And so
Brett was encouraged. He had a seance in his basement.
Ouija boards.
Come on, kids.
Like so Jessica, it's
Fourth
funny.
grade, I was Bill Clinton
It's-
for Halloween.
It's funny because my,
Dead serious.
Why? Were you a fan?
No, it was it was probably right after the Monica Lewinsky stuff. So it was probably like it was like one of those masks at Spencer's you could buy.
Oh
And I went to a party that my friends were having, and their parents thought it was the funniest thing ever. And looking back, it was like, oh, it
You let
was
a fourth
funny
grader?
and horrible at the same time. Yeah. So Marcus not a fan of Halloween.
I just think it's overrated.
I
It annoys me that it's not on a
What's
Saturday.
overrated about it? The fact that everyone gets excited about it?
Yeah, I just don't get it.
I agree with this. It should just be
just be a Saturday.
It is the third Friday of October.
It
fourth
should
Friday
be the
of
last
October.
Saturday of October. or
Tell me
whatever.
this. Is there any other holiday where you're encouraged to dress up like silly things, and would we do it if there wasn't Halloween? I don't know of any other time where we'd all dress up in costumes and have fun like that.
I do know the kids love it.
Yeah.
The
No,
kids love it.
I do think
My
that
kid- I don't discourage my kids.
the evil
I just
element
think
of
it's
it. I mean, the reason we
overrated.
weren't allowed to as kids is we grew up conservative, and there is definitely people who take it too far. And apply the devil side to that. But
yeah, I mean, if I thought that legitimately, though, I wouldn't let my kids.
100%. Yeah.
It is fun. I love getting back to the house and passing out candy.
I prefer.
girls pass
I
out
enjoy
candy.
passing out candy.
Actually, being home, eating, we have everybody over and everybody makes different food and we're eating it. We're watching a movie.
Charcuterie boards.
Charcuterie boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why is it on? Like this year, it's on a Thursday.
So really, it's timing. It's just
Like
it's
it needs to
cramping
be.
your
It
schedule.
needs to be on a Saturday. I don't need my kids up late on a freaking Thursday.
Well, I mean, to be honest, my kids are back by like 7:30.
Yeah,
8
and
o'clock.
eating their entire bag of candy and staying up till 10.
Yeah,
Watching scary movies.
jacked up on sugar.
Not only can they not sleep from the sugar, but the scary movie they watch.
Yeah.
So for the next 3 days.
You know what? Halloween does
Halloween
suck.
sucks.
There we go. 1 out of 9.
Super
1 out of
overrated.
9.
What are we covering?
Nah, I might give it a 2.
Hold on, before
because okay, last thing, favorite candy. Mine's Almond Joy.
Oh my gosh. I just puked in my mouth a little.
You know those caramels you
'cause
get
he
at
is.
like nursing homes?
Rolos? Or like the
Werther's
ones-
Originals?
Werther's Originals. No, I'm just kidding.
Dude, my great grandpa always had Werther's Originals.
I swallowed one when I was like 3. Just went to suck on
That's
it.
a core memory. That's a core memory.
Yeah.
We need to have a whole section of core memories for Brett.
I just remember thinking, like, it went down, and I was like, but I can still feel it. And everybody's like, you'll be fine. And I was like, I'm going to die.
You're like, it's going to grow in my
I'm
stomach.
going to die.
It'll melt eventually, I promise.
Dude, the things that adults told me. So, like, my mom told me one time, like, I thought it was being cool, so I like mixed all the sodas together, like Dr. Pepper, like all
Suicide.
Yeah, I made a suicide out of it.
Yeah.
And so I told my mom, I was like, hey, look what I did. And I took a sip of it. She's like, you know, you could die from that. And I believed her. What's wrong with you, Mom?
Lots of sugar.
Well-
That's why. It's
Oh,
the
is that what
sugar
she
that
said
gets
that?
you.
It's actually true.
Yeah. Favorite would probably be like
This is great
probably
content.
Sour
Hold on.
Patch Kids.
Sour
Pause
Patch
longer.
Kids, very good. Very
Yeah.
good. Very
Anything
good.
with peanut butter.
Good choice.
Reese's.
Yeah. Also good choice.
Butterfinger. Yeah.
But
Reese's very good. Frozen Reese's is my favorite Reese's.
saying Almond Joys with coconut in it, like that's a you lose, you get nothing scenario.
Oh man, big Almond
You can have all my
You're not a
Almond
coconut
Joys.
guy.
No.
No, he's not a.
I actually like
What
that.
what
as a
you
change-up.
said? Processed
fake
Fake
coconut.
coconut.
Fake coconut. He's a
Although we
purist.
faked him out and we fed him that.
We
You
did.
did
You
get me.
loved
And you
that.
loved
didn't you?
it.
Love
Yes,
it.
you
Yes,
did.
you did. And then
100%.
you're like, oh,
100%
it's
you did.
because it's the aftertaste.
Yeah, I made up some
I did
sort
get
of
it.
like.
I did get a little coconut on the
because I
aftertaste.
paired it with this beer.
That's
Rem,
true.
what
I
are,
was drinking the Charlie.
what are we covering this
Gus's
episode?
Gloop.
Brett, we're covering Daniel James Brown, The Indifferent Stars Above. But before I read the back cover,
Oh,
can I read the top 10 episodes?
Oh,
Here's our demographic, boys. You ready for this? 90% of our audience is American. 7% is German. And I got to be honest, we're not very German friendly on this show.
listen. That's my roots.
People, set yourself on fire. People will come to watch you burn.
That's my roots. I think manguses are pretty big in Germany. I think that's what it is.
By the way, 0.2% Russian. So,
Oh, that must be Brett.
yeah. 53% fall between the ages of 28 and 34, which is younger than us. Yeah, we're kind of hip now. We got to dirty up our sneaks and
I think so.
wear baggy
Nice.
pants and stuff. Remember Jengas? Jengas?
Jenko.
This is a Brett.
Jenkos.
This is a Brett question.
Janko.
You remember the big old?
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and you had the little thing where you
Brett
could.
had some of those. I bet.
So I didn't look like I thought I had some, but not. But now looking back at
Oh, I
like
did.
pictures of people that actually did
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Oh yeah, you had the off-brand.
Probably.
I had so the cool thing when I was in high school was skinny like shirt, baggy pants, and Chuck Taylors. That was the
Oh, really?
punk. That was the punk. Yeah,
I don't think I've ever been cool.
a
so-
band T-shirt. Did you wear a collared shirt and khakis when you went to school?
No.
We definitely had a double polo
I just wore.
shirt.
I wore
moment.
like sweatpants and like if it was this time of year, I had basketball practice or whatever. I just wear
Double polo shirt. What's the white?
Double polo?
No,
Was that
you
Pops
didn't.
collar?
There was definitely Pops collar.
That was middle school.
I don't
That
know
was
that I
middle
ever
school.
did
Lie.
a double, but there, like it would not be abnormal to see someone with a double collared shirt And then what's the puka necklace?
Puka shells.
And then frosted tips.
I have a school picture with frosted tips and puka shells and braces.
Riley, we're gonna need that. We're gonna need that to go on the social media.
Let's change the cover of our podcast to that picture. All right, so here's our top 10, boys, and we've got some new ones that have gotten into the top 10. Number 10, Mangus, Never Have Your Dog Stuffed. Alan Alda cracked the top 10.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great episode that I didn't think.
Maybe
Well, we
there's
struggled
more
'cause I
millennial Mash
screwed up.
fans than I thought.
I screwed up the.
So it
I
should be
fumbled.
even higher, probably.
I fumbled the launch on that, so it's cool to see it crack.
It's
the
a
top
cool
10.
title. Maybe the title.
Fumble
gets
the
people.
launch. I'm gonna start calling you AR5.
Yeah, dude. There's no amount of
It's rough.
It's so rough.
distraught. Just why would you do that? Why would you bring up AR5 when I'm
The
in the
good news
zone?
is I'm not that disappointed when we lose because I'm expecting to.
No. Put in Flacco. Number 9, Parasite, cracked the top 10 as well, which,
Oh.
you know.
I'm a big fan.
It's that was good. Number 8, A Knight's Tale, Heath Ledger. We've done like 17 Heath Ledger movies on accident in the first 23 episodes. Patriot cracks the, what'd I say, number
Speaking
8?
of.
Yeah. Patriot comes in at number 8. Number 7, we got some book readers. Storyteller, Dave Grohl, number 7. Here's the top 5. Forrest Gump.
What's number 6?
Forrest Gump had a, what'd I say? So,
You
yeah,
said 7,
Storyteller's
then you
6.
said number
Okay,
5.
I'm sorry. Storyteller's 6. Forrest Gump, number 5. And this is our top 5. Forrest Gump was our strongest launch, by the way. When it first came out, ton of downloads. Green Lights at number 4. So we've got 2 books in the top 5.
All right.
3. Boys in the Boat is number 3. Number 2, still our number 1 episode of all time. I'm sorry, our first episode of all time. It will always be our first episode
Number
of all
2,
time.
still our number 1.
Remember the Titans. And then number 1.
Cannot replace a Gary Bertier.
I don't know why people love the episode Gladiator, but they eat it up. And it is still in the number 1
Gladiator
spot.
2's coming out.
When's
They're
it come out? Does anyone know?
excited. It comes out, I think, is it Thanksgiving weekend?
Should we all go to the theaters
for
and watch
sure,
it?
For sure. We'll take
They're
our whole all
excited?
of our families. We'll have 22 people in the theater, and we'll finally figure out if he's the son of...
Oh, yeah.
Lucius is the son of Maximus.
No.
No, not Maximus. Dude, you're changing your take.
If Lucius is the son of, gosh darn it, what's his name?
Commodus.
Ominous. Thank you. Good save. Yeah, they're excited for that. They love the honest rating.
No.
The honest rating. What did you rate it?
6.
6.
6 out of 9.
He gave one of the best movies of all time a 6.
Can you
It-
tell me?
it was
Can you
great.
tell me again why you gave it a 6?
Some of the well, first of all, we agreed I watched it on my phone. That doesn't do it any justice.
that's
Which
a
kids
big
running
one.
around in the background?
No, it was late at night. It was up at the lake. There were definitely parts where the I want to say cinematography, but maybe I'm using the wrong word. It just was weird. There were parts of it that were not together. I don't know. It was great. It was great.
That's blasphemy.
As
great.
always, you are wrong.
It was great.
So, Daniel James Brown, we already read. So, number 3 all time, Boys in the Boat. We loved him so much, we decided to bring him back for a second book in our first year. And this one did not disappoint. Now, I will tell you, well, we'll get to that. Here is the back cover from the number 1 best-selling author of Boys in the Boat. Comes an unforgettable epic of family tragedy and survival on the American frontier. You cannot count with your fingers while I'm doing this every single episode.
Well, that's all I do.
In April of 1846, 21-year-old Sarah Graves, intent on a better future, set out west from Illinois with her new husband, her parents, and 8 siblings. 7 months later, after joining a party of pioneers led by George Donner, they reached the Sierra Nevada mountains as the first heavy snows of the season closed the pass ahead of them. In early December, starving and desperate, Sarah and 14 others set out for California on snowshoes, and over the next 32 days endured almost unfathomable hardships and horrors. In this gripping narrative, New York Times bestselling author Daniel James Brown sheds new light on one of the most legendary events in American history. Following every painful footstep of Sarah's journey with the Donner Party, Brown produces a tale both spellbinding and richly informative.
Wow, that was detailed. That was
It was, but it still
good.
doesn't give everything away.
It was good.
If you don't know the story, like you're
If you don't know the story of the Donner Party, yeah.
Should we give a disclaimer for this episode? I mean, this is the darkest
Yeah, I would
book
say
I've ever read.
if you're like, hey, I listen to and from school with my kids, this
maybe.
might not be the one to choose.
That's a good one.
Might not be the one to choose.
You might have to answer some questions.
Definitely
Yes.
listen to it though.
Yeah, like there are some episodes where your kids would snicker in the back seat and be kind of giggling. This one, you might get to your destination, look in the rearview mirror, and they might be just staring up in horror,
I mean,
thinking about.
just me reading this while I was camping, I had to have like 2 or 3 conversations with my children, ages 8 and above, about cannibalism.
You already mentioned on the last episode that you were camping. And so we watched The Shining and Get Out, and you said this book freaked you out more than both those combined.
Totally, because I'm camping, I'm cooking over the fire.
You're grilling meat.
I'm cooking over a fire and grilling meat, and I'm just looking at it like, oh my gosh.
Do you guys remember the quote where he says, "All meat when being grilled smells the same"?
Yes.
Yes. Well,
Especially when you're that hungry. I
Oh
bet
my
it does
gosh.
too.
so what'd you know going into it? I knew nothing. I didn't even know who the Donner Party was. I played Trail, 4th grade. Mr.
Nice.
Russ, shout
They
out.
left that out of Oregon Trail.
You
Well,
died
this
of
wasn't the Oregon Trail.
you died of dysentery a lot in
Yeah.
Oregon Trail. Left out a lot of these.
You
different
always
things.
stocked up on food, and then all the food goes bad because that
Yep.
was frustrating.
There's no way out. So I will say, if you want to learn about a very specific route west, and one probably, I would guess this is, as far as recorded stories of Expedition Out West, this is probably the most detailed and
Gruesome.
gruesome is a good word. Yeah, tough. But yeah,
I do love about his
Definitely
writing.
one of the most famous.
I do
One
love
of
about
the
his
most
writing, though.
famous.
He brings in what's going on all over the country at the time, what's going on politically at the time. He brings in those details to really put you there, not just in that one setting, but what's going on in the world. And he brings up other times in history where it was similar. I love that about his writing.
Yeah, he did the same thing in Boys in the Boat, and I really liked how that brought everything together as well.
man, he's good at what he does.
He's
This
very
is his
good.
niche. This is it.
Oh, he's a very, very good writer.
Does he write any other type of books, Rem? Do you know?
No, I mean typically like
what did we decide this was?
historical narrative.
Historical narrative, is that right?
Yeah, I mean so that's what even one of
I
the
thought that's what
quotes.
Nate. I thought that's what
Brown
Nate said.
Brown tells the tale with a novelist touch.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Man,
Historical novel.
Yeah. So I mean,
Marcus?
I knew who the Donner Party was. I was in a play in college, a short play, where it was called Donner Party of 5.
Shut up.
And no, I was
in what year? In college?
in college.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it was an acting class.
Oh, that's great.
I think it was either my junior or senior year. I tried to find pictures, so that, I'm still going to look for them.
who played Sarah?
No, it wasn't. I don't know if we had the actual names of the Donner of the Donners.
You just played off of what happened.
Yeah, we were just stuck. It was like it was maybe 15 minutes. You know, it was a short.
Wait, this is why Marcus doesn't like people dressing up on Halloween. They haven't earned the right. They are true professional actors.
You don't need a self-propelled mower. Just mow your lawn.
Anyway, I was in that. Jessica reminded me of that because it was like a senior that wrote it, and then I think actually I was a senior at the time, just taking an elective course.
I'm guessing
And-
like tried to be historically accurate though, right? And
No, I mean it was literally like one scene in a cave
Got it.
where
Yeah.
like two people leave,
Trying to figure out if you're gonna
like
eat each other or
Two
something.
people leave,
Yeah.
and then one person comes back with meat.
Yeah.
And then when we start eating.
Oh, that's great.
And like I remember we tried to get the blood right and we tried to get the meat right.
By the way,
and-
so you know when you buy a car, you start seeing that car everywhere. You know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
You buy new.
where are you going with this?
So listen, you buy
he's heard about Donner all.
I don't know who would buy a Prius, but if you did buy a Prius, you see Prius everywhere.
I
If you buy
destroyed a
GMC
Prius one time.
Cool, Marcus.
Crashed
Don't interrupt
right
me.
into it.
So listen, when you buy a car, you see it everywhere. Where was I going with this? Oh,
now you're
ever since
hearing the
we
Donner
started
Party.
reading this,
Uh-huh.
I've been seeing
Cannibals.
tons of movies and books on cannibalism.
Oh, wow.
like narrative, like Netflix is featuring 2 of them right now. You know the rugby plane that goes down and then there's another girls.
So you're saying this has been featured to you on Netflix?
I don't know if it's featured to me as much as it's just like kind of in people's minds right now.
Dude, I think
because this is not a book. This is not a book that like is circulating right now. I just like his writing, so I bought his next book. Like it's not like people are all reading this.
if you've talked about cannibalism out loud
With
with
my
your phone
phone?
around, I promise it's
Yeah,
connected.
you're probably right. But I mean, it wasn't me that watched it. Kelsey, who doesn't read the back cover of anything, she's like, "Oh, this looks good." Starts watching the show, and she comes to me and she's like, "I should not have watched that." Oh my God.
Gotta judge by the cover, Kels.
Oh yeah,
Gotta judge by the cover.
Rem, what'd you know going into it besides your boy wrote it?
that's it. That was it. I mean, I knew that these kinds of things happened on the trail out west. Kind of like just in passing. And so I didn't know anything about the Donner Party and the actual story. And to be honest, like when I first bought this, I thought we were going to read about the gold rush because I truly did not read the back cover.
Well, and that's
Well,
what
'cause
you
that's what
told
you
us.
said.
That's what you said.
You
was
were like,
it was
well,
about the gold
yeah.
rush, and then I got the book,
yeah.
and I was like, oh,
I think I just read the time period and it was like 1846. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, it's got to be about the gold rush.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
1849.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well,
So
yeah,
it-
I figured like 49 is when everyone
Yeah.
went out because
Yeah.
of what
Would
happened 3 years
these
before.
be the groups that got there, realized there was gold, and then all the communication got
Oh, for
back,
sure.
and
Yes,
then
for
the
sure.
gold? So this is
Absolutely.
the calm before the storm.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is okay.
Yeah,
got
they
it.
paved the way for gold.
They were.
This really,
yeah,
yeah.
There's literally a pass called Donner Pass. I
Right.
mean, this is.
Well, I mean, I think the last chapter
And
talks about
you
that.
don't want to take that one, or you do?
Well,
want
you
to
can now.
Yeah.
You can drive it now,
take- Yeah, I meant back in the day when it was first.
dude.
I'm guessing you.
Why
would-
do you think they called it like? Why did they name everything Donner when it wasn't just the Donners that did all this stuff? It wasn't just the Donner Party.
Well, it
there were
sounds like
two
if you're the-
Donner brothers.
If you're the beginning party and people are adding to your crew,
True.
Yeah, it
I
was
think
the
that's-
But it wasn't
Donners,
even like,
and
as I
then-
understand it, and I mean, you guys got to help me on this because I read it and I listened to it and I was still unclear because I didn't go back. But like, it wasn't even them who started it. Like it
Who's
was
them? The
I was
Donners?
also surprised by. I did find myself going, "Why is the Donner Party the most important?"
they're the villains.
group? Yeah,
Yeah, they're.
Were they the villains?
No, I'm saying they're
Villain's not the right word.
villainized. They
Oh.
whenever people talk about the Donner Party, they put that name in the same
Got it.
name as the Dahmer. Like Jeffrey Dahmer was the psycho killer.
I don't think of it that way.
That's the way I hear it. Is like the Donner Party is those are the ones that ate everybody.
I mean, I guess I just always thought it was more of a sad situation than
Okay.
it was.
But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not how people view it.
I think the Donner family didn't feel like the key piece I thought they would
Sure.
to the Donner Party.
But that's
I
because
thought-
of the way that he chose to tell the story.
True.
He
got it.
tells
Okay,
the
that's a good point.
story
That's a good point.
about Sarah
Right.
specifically.
Right. But it was epically sad
And
for the
Sarah's
Donners too.
family, Sarah's family joined in
Correct.
with the Donners when they got to one of the towns that they got to before
Right.
heading into the
They started out
territory.
in Illinois, and then where do they meet them?
I think originally in that Missouri St. Louis situation, and then they kind of go separate
It's about
ways, and then they
halfway.
re-meet. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And that wasn't halfway. That was like the
No,
first.
not even close to halfway.
That was like the first stop to refuel. I know we're not fueling, but you're getting all your last second. What did they call them?
Well, St. Joe, which was Missouri.
Provisions?
Yes, provisions.
St. Joe, which was Missouri, was the last stop
Yes.
before they went into it would have been, I guess, the Iowa Territory.
Which was why it was so
At the
important to start by May 1st.
Because there's
if
no
you get
civilization.
Stuck, you're
Yeah,
screwed.
there's no
Yeah.
civilization at this point. They said there's just a few there's
Right.
hunters and trappers and people from the Revenant, that are out there.
Well, as I understand it, there was two big reasons why they started going. One, because some guy went out there and forged the path and basically was over embellishing how awesome
Oh, we're
California
gonna
is.
talk.
Hastings.
We're gonna talk
We'll
about
get into
Hastings.
Hastings.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
other one that is just
Hastings
short.
almost as bad as Grandpa Joe.
Hastings is.
By the way, when I went
Yeah.
back and listened to our Willy Wonka, listened to our Willy Wonka episode, which by the way is one of my favorite episodes we've ever done. I think it's fantastic. It needs to have more views, so go back and listen to that one.
It's brand new. Give him a
It's
chance.
really good. It's really good.
People can't keep up,
Grandpa
man.
Joe is a douchebag. Like, what?
Thank you.
Are you kidding me? Why isn't that the whole premise of the movie? And then he tells them to take the everlasting. Anyway, so in chapter
Earmuffs, Tammy.
in chapter 1, they talk about how malaria was one of the main reasons people started migrating, because they didn't have a cure. They didn't have everyone was dying from it. And
You're saying in
was-
Illinois?
in Illinois.
Can we hear some slam poetry before we get
Oh
into this stuff?
shoot! You talk about malaria and your slam poetry.
Don't. This was hard. Books are hard for the 30 seconds.
Books are hard. There's so many words.
Books are hard. All right.
I didn't go to college. I didn't
Marcus,
graduate.
consider yourself on the clock. Yeah, correct yourself there.
Yeah.
I did go. I went to two colleges.
Oh wow! He's
How-
twice as educated.
Come
man.
on, that's great. All right, here we go. Let's go west. The Graves, the Donners, many others. Hastings can jump off a freaking cliff. Tough decisions. Gotta leave by May 1st. They did not. It just keeps snowing. They built a lot of stuff. How'd they survive this long? Cannibalism. I knew it. They made it. Well, some of them made it. They go back. The children. Hard to read. Sarah lives. Daniel James Brown. Legend.
Yeah.
Marcus, 9 words.
Although Marcus doesn't like him because he thinks he takes political sides.
Oh my gosh.
That's what he
We can
said.
get into that. It is political
I
season.
said I didn't like that aspect.
I sat down with some friends at church this morning. We got there early, dropped off the kids, and they sat down. I go, "How's it going, guys? Good. Who you voting for?"
Yeah.
It's that season. You got to
That's
use that
great.
every
That's
day.
great.
This next couple weeks.
They said we're going to Canada.
All right. Optimistic pioneers get fooled and pay the ultimate price.
Did you say get fooled and put up one finger?
No.
Optimistic pioneers get fooled and pay the ultimate price. 9. That's 9. Confirmed.
Boom.
Confirmed. That was great.
I have a question. Did you say pay the ultimate price for another one?
Maybe.
I think I remember you saying that before.
I don't actually remember
think there's a rule
what my
against that.
9 words are for the rest of them.
What are you drinking?
Oh, yeah. What am I drinking? I'm drinking
It's got to be.
the Sierra Nevada Pale
Ah.
Ale.
Oh,
And let me tell
smart.
you, it looks...
Good thinking.
Those mountains look picturesque.
Man, I was
They look
expecting.
I'd go out
picturesque.
there.
They're enticing. They're,
Oh, I mean, just look at them.
I was expecting
had a Coors Light.
a blood orange something.
So I actually considered, you know how you can buy those cups of bone broth?
Oh,
I was
yeah.
going to get bone broth for all 3 of us to drink.
Brett and I ate bone broth
Black Market.
at the Black Market.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
When that
man.
was
That place
still
was
around.
awesome.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
some weird
You ate
cool
bone
stuff.
marrow, probably.
Bone marrow.
Oh yes.
What'd you say?
Bone broth. You can just buy bone broth and drink it.
That's at Kroger.
And we make soup with that every day.
All right. So
bone marrow.
lots here. What made us think we got into Hastings already? We got into malaria, the Graves, the Donners.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just start with him real quick?
Yeah, let's-
yeah.
Let's start
Who,
with the
Hastings?
author. No, well, hold on. Let's just start with the author because
Okay.
he starts off. He starts the book and then ends the book with his specific journey.
Yep.
And
Oh yeah, that's right.
I would say that I'm just so impressed with the painstaking way in which
Journalistic writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
He not only does all this research to understand the time period, but he literally would go to, Illinois and at the certain time that at the same time of year that they
Right.
left,
Right.
drive, camp, stay in cheap motels,
Yep.
walk for bits of it, do things so that he could experience some of the types of things that they would. Now, these families were going out into, completely virgin land,
Yeah.
Right.
right? He's obviously not, but there's still a lot.
But you've
out
walked
there,
across
and-
campus in really brutal weather in Illinois before, and you're like, "Wow, I've totally experienced this before."
You went across campus in Illinois, yeah, not me.
True.
But but that's it. I mean, he went in painstaking to be accurate, so that he could write to what he thought they might be feeling, and it's just a really fun way to read about a historical event.
Totally. It's my dream job too. Like I actually, the only more of a dream job was Anthony Bourdain, just traveling all over and writing and doing.
I thought podcasting
vlogs.
with your friends.
Yeah, I'm living the
a
dream.
dream job.
I'm living the dream.
Gotcha.
But writing about food and writing about people that you like go to, like his job, and he does a great job of like the historical part of it, like researching. And I mean, that very first prologue, he says, "I walked the times of the store." Like, this is intense.
I didn't think about it until you were just talking, Marcus, but I remember we talked once about when you were running an office, you were doing some things, and you did some really, really hard stuff, like you were advertising, some guerrilla marketing sort of stuff, that you were getting your hands dirty.
Yeah.
But you found yourself doing all the other aspects of your job better because you were so like all in.
Yeah.
And I think there's an aspect of that is whether that actually helps him like know more about the book or the historical facts, like because he's so all in and bought in, he's gonna write a better book, and his belief
totally.
I think there's part of that going on.
And even
too.
the fact that he can tell us that,
Yeah.
we now perceive this as being more legit.
Yeah, really smart way to start the book.
Right.
Yeah. So,
All right, so
I just wanted to hit on that.
Yeah, let's get into Hastings. So it sounds like you have more notes than I do. I just wrote down one single note. The amount of power one person writing about lands that no one has seen was enough to start a movement.
But the time too. Like, think about back then. You're not getting fact checked.
Yep.
There's nobody to talk against you.
Can't Google
you
it.
know you can screw somebody over, scam them, everything, and
Totally.
know there's a very, very small possibility. If you don't want to see them ever again,
You won't.
you won't.
Yeah.
And nobody will ever run into you that knows
Yep.
those people. That like the opportunity to take advantage of others back then was so easy.
Totally.
Yeah, Lansford Hastings is who we're talking about here. He wrote the book, The Immigrants, Immigrants Guide to Oregon and California, right? And he is the villain in this story, at least the way that
True.
Brown, at least the way that Brown
For
chooses
sure.
to tell it, because there was an established route to California through Oregon. He thought he had stake in California. He was working with that guy Sutter, and he said there is a path through the Sierra Nevadas that is shorter from a mileage perspective.
Yeah.
So it is a quote unquote shortcut that he had never taken.
He'd never seen.
Correct.
And he had never seen. Even once he did see it and knew that wagons couldn't pass it,
Still promoted it.
he still told them,
And wrote a book.
you can do this.
Yep.
And he literally
Took out ads.
He literally went to where they were going to split off to go from Oregon, either go to Oregon or go to California through this pass, through the Sierra Nevada, through the Great Salt Desert, all this stuff. And he said, no, this path is fine. Mm-hmm. It's insane.
It's one of my.
It's not insane.
I said he represents the worst of us.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not insane. It's
greedy.
calculated
It's greedy.
evil. Yeah.
It was one of the things I hated to learn most was that nothing, like, as far as we know, nothing horrific happens to this dude. I was so excited to find out
At the end.
he gets just completely overrun.
No, he becomes a judge. He moves to Brazil.
He moves to
does it
Brazil
again in
and
Brazil.
starts a Confederate like state there, right?
He does die.
Does he ever
he does die in a boat.
Does he ever
accident.
find out the ramifications of his actions? Does he ever find out what happened with the Donner Party?
I mean, why else would
he move to Brazil?
maybe that's why he fled.
I mean, they don't make that part clear.
He would have known. They all knew.
I was just
They knew immediately after.
Yeah,
because
this was very highly
they made
publicized.
they made the writings public pretty immediately.
This was very highly publicized for a long time.
I just can't get over well, I'm just waiting for you to bring up the most horrific part to you, because like to me it's like the epitome of the book, but I'll wait.
Okay.
How's that for a teaser?
You just talking about writings. The amount of writing they did.
Yeah.
How did it get everywhere?
Circulated?
Yeah.
Because that was the
called a
only
printing
thing.
press.
That was the only thing left. That was what they had to print. They didn't print like that's how they printed stories.
I'm talking about letters. They were writing letters to family members.
How did the letters get to them?
Get
well, the letters weren't until the end when they actually established route. Like when they started writing back to Illinois was after the winters. It was after when they found them.
When they were stuck, they weren't. They were
writing, but they weren't sending.
It definitely felt like it was phrased like they were able to communicate.
I'm totally missing on the name of it, but
what was the total time?
There were literally like wagons essentially that would go that had all of the mail and everything.
Yeah, posting.
Like, right. There was a Wells Fargo wagon.
What was the total? What was the total time period of this journey?
So you just read on the back of the book that from the time they were at that camp, I think it was 32 days.
It was the entire.
No. But the back of the book, I think it said from the time the snow fell, it was like 32 days.
They left in April.
And
then they got there in February.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry. They left in April, but then they didn't actually leave for the tough part until after May 1st because that was the big cutoff.
Yeah,
May
it was
1st.
like the end of May. They actually left.
They left like 30 days after they should have.
Correct.
Yeah.
For the tough part, and then the following February they made it.
Mountains or whatever. Yeah. They made it. They made it through after they had the relief parties and everything else. They made it.
So
through.
summer.
The people that made it through in February.
Mm-hmm. So the timeline,
and they started getting stuck in early November.
Timeline was exactly. The timeline was summer is, hey, some people are getting sick like normal. There is going to be some tragedies along the way simply because people don't get along.
Yeah. There were drownings, like kids drown all the time.
Two
Bit by
guys
scorpions.
just couldn't. They hung a guy because they couldn't get along.
Road rage. Yeah.
Yep.
Situation.
Road rage. Literally road rage. He wrote.
Yeah. And the other thing too about getting stuck there was like they had seen snow obviously, but not this type of like you have to be thinking they're not thinking that far ahead of there's going to be something that we literally get like it had to seem like every single phase just was a new layer of like we didn't even know to expect this. It just was a new daunting task right away.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they knew that they couldn't because it shouldn't have taken them that long, but the problem was it was so treacherous.
Yep.
They couldn't get all their wagons and everything through there.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys ever been to, you probably haven't, have you guys ever been to Spring Mill State Park?
No.
So Spring Mill State Park has like a pioneer village because it used to be one of the stops on the way.
This is in Indy?
Out west. This is in Indiana. It's 2 hours south of here.
Okay.
So they've got, at the state park, they've got this village. They've got a big mill, that's water powered from the river. It's still operational. It's pretty sweet.
That's cool.
But when you see the tracks that these wagons went on, that are going into the woods, you're like, how's that even possible?
Right. And they're wooden wheels.
Indiana.
Dude, they got these
woods.
wagons across bodies of water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lifting,
creating
oxygen.
It had like the floats
and stuff. Like, it's wild.
Yeah,
it's wild.
That was like
so
a whole
easy.
day. Like things we take for granted now, like would be like an all-day activity. Today, we're getting the wagon over the river.
But they mostly walked.
There's something simple and cool about that though too.
Yeah, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Like you gonna check email at the end of the day? Like
it's totally true. What are you gonna do? Watch a movie?
No, yeah.
You're not gonna watch a movie.
No.
That's why they all knew how to like. They read a lot. They knew how to play musical instruments. They knew how to.
Sure.
Because that's what they had to do.
The Renaissance man. It's a real thing. Slowly phased out.
Yeah, I wrote like life was just really hard on the frontier anyway, right? And you mentioned this earlier, but like they didn't know what malaria was,
right?
So he starts off with they were living in Illinois in this bog, and they kept getting malaria each year, and they didn't know what it was, and people would die or
they didn't know it was
whatever.
caused by mosquitoes.
They didn't know it was caused by mosquitoes.
Yeah.
They didn't have.
Well, they were building
medicine for it. They were trying
building
to eat, like,
shelters down
stuff.
by these water, like rivers and stuff like that, thinking it was a great spot. And then really it was just an infestation of mosquitoes. And
speaking of mosquitoes, remember when you got Zika?
I do remember that.
He got so they said don't go to Mexico. Mosquitoes will give you Zika, and he's like, I'm going to Mexico, and I vividly remember you saying a mosquito
I remember
bit me,
one,
and I smacked it and killed it, and I go, I just got Zika, and he did. How wild is that?
is that hypochondriac? Is that what
That you
is?
think you're gonna get
You
it?
think or you think you got it because of one thing that happened?
Yeah.
I might have done that. See, dude,
You brought it on, like
but
the
to
sore?
my point, remember when I got sick a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago?
'Cause
Bit the inside of my lip.
You brought that. No, I think there's something to that. Like,
Life was tough. It was the wild, wild west for sure. That's why it was called that, I guess.
It was wild.
It was wild. Did you guys the story about Mexico owning California and the Mexican government being involved?
Well,
and then
it was Mexico.
It was Mexico. But Vallejo was the guy negotiating
Yeah,
the
that's funny.
terms of California, and that whole story was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. But then,
You're taking my hidden gem, man. That's okay though.
well, then
Take it away.
well, yeah, because we need to tell what the story is if it's really, really cool.
in the middle of these negotiations, not the news doesn't travel as fast as it does today. These Mexicans find these young American men and they kill them pretty horrifically. Jaws yanked out of their mouths, fed them pieces of each other's bodies. Like,
oh yeah,
dude, I mean, whatever we come across today in 2024, these
Mild.
people, dude, it's very wild. It's very, very, very wild. I'm completely unprepared.
I mean, I still think a lot of terrible things happen in like
No-
prison camps and
well,
stuff like that.
yeah.
Sure. But I mean, us sitting here in Hamilton County, Indiana, we got a lot of people to thank for what we don't have to deal with, I guess is my point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Vallejo.
Vallejo. What else? What else made us think?
So I just, I wrote down the pioneering and entrepreneurial spirit. That's like, I don't know. It feels very American because, up until this point, basically all of Europe and everything else, everything had been discovered there for so long, right? So many of the people who were pioneering in Europe came over here or from these other countries or whatever. And so it feels very American, but like that pioneer spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit, I mean, even the people that like they went through this terrible thing, right? But once they made it through, they all got land, all their families got rich. Like in a lot of ways, even though they got there with almost no money, they were way better off because they got a piece of California before anyone else did. And that in a lot of ways is the entrepreneurial journey, except now, like, instead of dying, you go bankrupt or whatever.
Well, do you think there was a sense of like, what I just went through, I'm not playing it safe too? Like, I'm sure there was a sense of like, what have I got to lose? Like, I made it here. We're just going to freaking go for it. Was it Reed?
What do you mean?
Just like these guys that made it over there. Like, I remember reading.
Well, they went there because they were trying to get rich.
So, right. But also, too, like, you've also got your family with
And some
you.
of them were well off already, but
You got your family with you. Like, there's some sense of like providing or whatever. Some of them lost everybody. Reed he's the guy that gets cast off on the donkey.
yeah.
That they're like, hey, just go die in the desert. He ends up becoming one of the most successful of all of them.
He was originally one. He was originally the most successful. He was the business guy that had all the money.
There's a scene in The West Wing when Rob Lowe's character is challenged by someone who basically says, "Why are we wasting this money going to Mars?" I think it was like a journey to Mars after we'd gone to the moon or something like that. And he spends a whole episode really feeling the weight of that question, like, shouldn't we be spending all this money elsewhere? And basically by the end of the episode, he says, because we can, because we should, because we need to, because since the beginning of human time,
We've discovered
we've forged, we've pushed on in that pursuit. Out of that pursuit comes greatness and provides greatness for everybody else. So I totally subscribe to what you're saying for that, and it's necessary for that to happen. The part, since we're moving right along, I don't want to miss one thing about chapter 1, is that the Great Depression was essentially impacted more by real estate than I ever knew from the 1800s. So like all of those sales.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that there was a huge real estate issue from out west and the lying and what you actually got for it, and because they were basically saying, hey, if you come out west, we already have these cities built up. Like you're buying a lot here, and then you get there and it's like the Fire Festival. It's like, you know, you know what I mean? And that's what caused the Depression. I mean, it's probably other things that came into that, but that was a much bigger part.
Yeah, people were over leveraged for something that didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people that it would have been in the East would have been buying all of this, getting there, and then it's like,
well, the banks
it's worth
did
nothing.
too. You know, like the banks were heavily invested in this stuff, and
Ponzi scheme.
essentially,
Yeah.
I mean, it ends up being valuable.
True. And that's the thing. Like you could be upset, or you could get there and be like, all right, this is what I got. I guess I'll make the most of it, which is what some did. And then gold happened. And, you know, so some people actually made it out. But for a while there was a lot of anger and depression.
To your point,
Literally.
Marcus, about, and I think Remy brought it up too, that just their ability to do so many things to survive. Like just think about them getting snowed in, and they literally built 3-4 cabins in a couple of days just to survive. If us three were stuck, snowed in, like I would not give up, but I would not. I don't know.
I knew this was coming. Who would we eat first? I was wondering. By the way, as I wasn't even Googling for this show, and I started typing something, and Dahmer came up, and the number one thing Googled was, what did Jeffrey Dahmer season his victims with?
Oh my gosh.
I didn't click it, so I don't know the answer. My conscience remains intact. But that is the number one thing Googled about Jeffrey Dahmer. I just thought you guys should know that.
Does it make you feel good that I was not
It's not
feeling the
St.
urge to
Elmo's.
ask you what
By the
it
way,
was?
we're talking about the Donners.
Yeah.
They probably did have some seasoning.
Oh,
With them.
what did they season it with? They barely.
Dirt.
They
No, I
didn't
mean-
season it with
option.
dirt. They ate flesh before they even
That's
like
true.
fried
They
it
ran out.
sometimes.
They ran out of seasoning, I think. But anyway,
Mr. Donner, by the way, this is how they describe Mr. Donner. Mr. Donner, overweight immigrant with 5 girls. Wife, a face that was not pretty.
Yeah. Well, apparently she was like
Ouch.
super frail too.
Who was not super frail, dude. The Graves family in general, the husband and the mom and dad, very impressive. The stories about the mom,
Dude, I would not call any of these people frail. They walked most of the way through this wilderness for 1,600 miles.
Dude, Graves specifically though, I was so impressed. The mom's story about rowing a boat across a lake basically to help out a new mom.
Yep.
Going home and then walking across the same frozen lake the next day.
Yep.
Like, just I obviously he's building them up for a reason. It was like, dude, if anybody's gonna make it, it's gonna be somebody from this family. Like,
Yeah, to answer your question though, if we got stuck like this today, we would not make it.
Well, I didn't know at what point this question or thought would come up during the show, but like for me, it's just again, we always talk about like whatever you believe about this life. For us, we believe that this life is for the next life.
Yeah.
So if we get to the end of time, I'm not eating one of you. I'm just gonna die.
Yeah.
Like it's very simple to me.
Yeah.
Like this is how I go. It sucks. I don't feel good.
Which-
I don't want to do it this way, but I'm not gonna do that.
Which
Yeah.
is a really big thing if you guys know Remington.
It's
like,
true.
This guy,
If there's anybody who would do this,
This guy
because of hunger.
cannot, like if you ever travel with this man, he is literally thinking about the next meal as we're eating the first meal.
Okay.
Like,
Okay,
he plans it all out.
Okay.
It's so funny
your
you
kid.
say
No,
that.
your kids are with you.
Yeah.
They are dying. They need food, or they're done.
No.
I'm just.
I mean, I
clear-
will feed them. I will feed them all the way up until the point that I die.
Well, that's part of the question though, is like, because that's what Mr. Graves, what's his name? Whatever. The dad.
The dad, yes,
right?
there's dad.
The dad. He literally, as he's dying, he knows he's about to die, and this is one of the saddest things. He's like, you guys have to make it across this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, because your brothers and sisters and mom are over there.
Yep.
If I die, you need to eat me.
So
And
crazy.
he literally
That's
made
the
them
part-
promise.
That's the part that I thought you were all messed up
Oh,
about. So I'm at Brett's house for some party, and afterwards he goes, "How far are you in the book?" And at the point I was like 60%. He's like, "So are you at the part where?" And he just like gets really sinister. I'm like, "I don't think I'm at any part that would make you feel this way." And I thought, when I started reading again, I thought it was the part where they were basically talking about that, like
Got it.
kids
Franklin.
eating. They literally said, they had to eat their mom, they eat their dad. Like,
I
okay.
can't believe we're saying this out loud.
I know. I know.
I can't believe we're
It
saying
is.
this out.
I mean, but it's just crazy.
So, okay.
Right? Like-
so you brought it up. He says that. Do you think that's, I mean, I assume you're saying that's admirable of him, but in that moment, do you agree with him? Is it still, would you
I
do
don't
that?
know the answer.
You don't know the answer.
I don't know the answer.
You don't think that it's abundantly clear that we shouldn't eat
Here's
people.
the thing: is one of the things that Brown points out here is that we know today that it wasn't actually the hunger that was killing them.
What, hypothermia?
It was hypothermia. It was the other things, because you can go a very long time without food.
Right.
They did not know that,
Right.
so they started doing this prematurely.
Now he makes the argument, yes, but part of what part of the reason hypothermia kills them is they don't have any body fat or anything like that. So
Correct.
it is
There's-
related.
It is, but they probably could have gone longer without food. But I mean, this is nuts. I don't know if I should read it or not. I guess you can figure it out. But he literally makes them promise.
Read it.
All right.
Yeah. So pause if you're I don't know why you're listening to this with your kids.
Yeah,
But if you are,
Yeah.
pause it here.
And
Go
just to
ahead.
set the stage here, there are a group. So there's a main camp that is before these mountains, and this is the first group that sets out to try to make it. They create snowshoes out of like
They create their own snowshoes.
Yeah, out of some extra supplies. They're heading off, and people slowly start fading away.
They know that this group is their only hope.
The men start fading away first because it just takes more calories for us to survive than women. And here's what happens.
Anyway, his face was blue, his pupils dilated, his limbs rigid, his breathing shallow. Eddie crawled over to them, looked them in the face, and told them he was dying. Graves said that he did not care, but he called out for his daughters. Distraught, Sarah and Marianne sat by their father, weeping. They hugged him and pulled him close and chafed his limbs and tried to warm him. Or chafed, I don't know. He spoke to them slowly and weakly, his speech slurred by the hypothermia. He said that their mother's life and the lives of their brothers and sisters depended on them making it through the mountains to get help. He pleaded with them to do whatever it took to survive. He told them that his body must be used for food and that they too must eat human flesh. Then he turned to the 18-year-old widow, Harriet Pike, who also sat by his side, and reminded her of her babies, Naomi and Catherine, back at the lake.
Yeah, so I mean, that alone is really tough, but now picture being that kid and having to actually cut it up.
Yeah, well,
like it's bad enough that you're thinking I have to
they didn't
eat
cut up
this.
their own dad.
What do you mean?
They made sure they kind of rotated so nobody was actually
Right.
Yeah.
So I
But
understand.
They didn't actually, because there was another guy who they had already drawn straws,
and they talked about what they did to the
that
bodies
was the
to
part
make
that messed
it
me up the most. By
to
the
make
way.
it less human. Basically, is what you're reacting to.
No. The part that messed me up the most is when he pauses when they start talking about this. What chapter are you in right there? I mean, that's late, right?
Well, middle.
Okay, so in that chapter, he basically once the way this book works is he starts saying, "Hey, listen."
The chapter's called Christmas Feasts.
Oh yes. Okay,
Because
so-
this was Christmas.
So up until this point, you're like, you know what's coming because you know the story, but you don't know how gruesome he's going to get with it. So he's telling the story of the path, and then the first chapter, they start eating people. The next chapter, he talks about all the different cultures and time periods where this was a thing.
yes.
And the one that messed with me was the Chinese culture, where they got so messed up in famine for a couple years that like families would starve their kids, their girls, and swap them kids so that they wouldn't be eating their own kids.
Yeah, most of the time, that's one point that he makes, is that most of the time in human history, it's always been the kids that disappeared first.
Right.
When
Great
people
Britain.
resorted to cannibalism.
Yeah.
And that was not the case. They did end up eating some of the kids, but in all of these cases, there were a couple times.
It was
but
more the adults.
In general, they weren't.
It's like at least we have that going for us.
In general, they weren't like killing people
Right.
to eat them.
Right.
With a couple of small exceptions.
Except for in Great Britain, where they were literally like, when there was a famine, that's when they were finding homeless people.
Yeah, I'm talking about the
homeless
Donners.
people.
I'm talking about the Donners.
Yeah, just
like I think that's why he was making that point.
right.
Was he was trying to elevate them and say like, hey,
We've come so far.
this is what everybody else was doing, like
Yeah.
because they're the weakest or whatever. You know, maybe it's like mercy,
I think
don't know.
China was after. I think it was 100 years later. I think it was in the 50s.
Oh, 1950s?
I think I'll look it up while
Whoa,
you guys are
well,
spitballing.
Leningrad
Goodness.
was one of the examples that he used, and that
yeah.
was
So
that
one
was
of the
World War
one of the
II.
questions
World War II, yeah.
One of the things that Graves posed to, hey, you got family back there, whatever. Like, there's a ton of tough decisions being made. There were people that like the relief came, and like a mom would have to send her daughter or son, like their last family member left, and it was like, you're going with this relief party. You could make it. What if you had one of your daughters, son, whatever, left? It was you and them, and you knew the only way was for you to go survive, get to this spot to be able to send back more people to help.
Mm-hmm.
That would be really hard to leave them there.
Yeah.
Like every bone in my body wants to just hold them, and I don't. That would just be that would be really, really, really
Or
hard.
other moms had to send their kids
Yes.
and stay back.
Yes.
You know? So in this case, there were a couple of moms because they picked the people who were the most fit. So basically like the younger
Yeah,
or
they got a shot.
men or whatever. And so they had to leave back like very young children. There were big families that we were talking about here. So
people are going.
I think, by the way, so we don't have to talk about the cannibalism the whole time because there's a lot more to the story.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that they had talked about this before they set out. Like, he doesn't set this up this way.
They talked about the fact that it was going to be so bad they might do this.
Yeah, I think so.
Before they set out on the journey from Illinois?
No.
From the onset?
No,
What
once they got stuck and once they thought they were going to run out of food.
Got it.
I think they'd talked about it.
Well, somebody dies and
the-
they save the body in the snow pretty strategically. That's pretty quick.
Well, at one point, but
Yeah.
that's after they've already made that decision. But separately, the camp that stayed behind and the people that went out both had made this. Actually, all the different camps, because the Donner Party itself, the Graves and the Reeds, the Donners, they were like half a mile apart.
Yeah. And everybody independently kind of makes this
They
same
all
realization.
decided to do this. And I think that once they were stuck and they thought they were going to run out of food, they were like, people are going to start dying. We're going to have to start eating each other. I think they had made that decision already.
You think like in their head, everybody in...
No, I think
like,
they talked about
I
it.
think they openly... Because there was definitely open discussion even with people who were living.
Yeah.
Like there was at one point they cast lots.
Well, that's what I was talking about, was that right before Franklin dies, one of the guys had suggested that they cast lots.
He ends up being the one.
And he ends up being the one that they were going to kill.
And then
so
they're like,
that they
we
could eat.
can't do it.
And then they decided they couldn't do it, but it messed with his mind so much that he ended up dying anyway.
Yeah.
Well, no.
So-
Didn't this happen? Didn't he say, well, maybe Daniel James Brown was referencing a different story about, hey, give me the night to sleep.
Yeah.
And he ends up like freaking out and dying that night anyway.
Yeah,
because
it's a specific phenomenon.
Yes.
It's a specific psychological phenomenon. A lot of that stuff reminded me very much of Man's Search for Meaning when we talked about the concentration camps.
Yeah.
Or like when Stanton, who was one of my favorite characters. The short guy.
Yep.
Obviously.
Yeah, makes sense.
One
I
of
understand.
my favorite characters.
Would have been a great coxswain.
I just.
Hey, how tall are you?
Huh? 5'9", 5'8".
The average male in America, how tall do you think he is?
I want to say it's like
5'7",
5'6".
It's 5'9".
I'm just kidding.
It's 5'9". That's pretty short.
That's pretty short.
How
Trust
tall
me.
do you think the average woman is?
5'4".
7.
5'4".
Hmm.
5'4".
How tall is the average male
Oh.
in the world? That's like
I think it's
5.
short.
Yeah, it's like 5'5", 5'6", something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
I'm a giant.
I'm huge.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
I'm little.
I just looked it up.
Anyway, Charles Stanton though was a part of this party. He was single. He was a bachelor. He wasn't connected to anybody, but he multiple times went out ahead. Right, so he actually made it through this pass.
Yeah.
And then came back.
Right.
Yeah, MVP.
Right.
And then
Leader.
went back out again with this party.
Yep.
Right, to guide them through it. He ended up dying as well, but before he died, do you guys remember? He was just kind of sitting there and he was smoking.
Yes, that's the part that made me think of it, of Man Search for Meaning,
Mm-hmm.
because he
Had
knew.
mentally just decided.
He
this
knew.
is it.
He just was done
Because
He
they
couldn't
came
do
back
it.
and said, "Hey, we're all going." He's like, "Okay, I'll be there in a sec," and he just kept smoking, and he sat there and died of hypothermia.
Yeah,
So we should describe what happens with
and
hypothermia.
they said like the sun blindness and everything else.
So hypothermia, there's a moment where you feel like you're overheating.
Yes.
And-
that was the most unique portion of that chapter where they talked about the most modern day version of it.
Yeah, was it like hypothermia and hyperthermia? Was there like two different?
There's definitely two different.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which is which, but yeah, for this one, when you're freezing,
Yeah. So this actually was a modern day story of a guy that was trapped in snow with his wife and 2 kids.
Yes.
And they were trapped for days, and he's like, I don't know if anyone's coming, so I'm going to go what I think is 5 miles away and get help. And he goes and gets help. Long story short, they come and rescue her, and he is basically found dead a couple miles away, having not gone the right path.
Yep.
But they found him stripping his clothes, and what had happened was, when you get down to so hypothermia, like you can drop 7 or 8 degrees, and it's not good for you, but you can live. If you drop 20 degrees internally, that's when you die. But what happens at the very end, if you're if your body temperature is like 78, 79 degrees internally, is right before you die, it releases, right? The blood releases, and it makes you feel warm. So you're losing your mind, and you don't know it, but you're losing your mind, and you get super hot, and so you start stripping your clothes off. You're not making sense, and then you end up dying of freezing. But I mean, the detail he goes into reminded me of Man Search for Meaning, and then that smoking scene where, because in Man Search for Meaning, they basically said, the cigarettes were used for
if you
bartering.
see somebody smoking a cigarette, you know they gave up.
Yes,
They gave up.
because they're not supposed to smoke them; they're supposed to use them for currency.
He also references one of the survival tactics they used was the human teepee. I don't know if you guys remember this,
Yeah.
where one person would stand in the middle, everybody would have their feet going
in the middle.
and then you'd use like
So
whatever
they'd
you
each
had,
hold,
a
like, the
coat
blanket
or
or
whatever.
whatever.
Yep. And it really circulated heat. But one of the brothers, the little brothers of a girl there, was experiencing this, freaking out, trying to leave, and they all just kind of tackled him and held him.
Yeah.
I think he survived for quite a bit longer after that, even.
Yeah.
But there was a couple survival tactics that like that was that might save my life someday.
Really smart.
Human teepee. Yeah,
It
it's
could. Yeah. Once, the world ends and we're all running from zombies and stuff, that might work.
It beats eating people. It's
Yeah.
good.
I thought that Reed, who was with them, who we referenced earlier,
Yep.
he kills Snyder before they get into the pass.
Mm-hmm.
He kills one of the other guys, and to me, that ends up being one of the most important things, because Reed ends up being banished.
Yep.
Mhm.
But his family sneaks some supplies out to him, right, in the
Yes.
middle of the night. So him and one other guy go off, and they make it to California way before everybody else does, because they're not burdened down with all of the rest of the things. They make it to California. He would like to go back, but he knows that he can't. So he strikes up a deal, fights for America to take over this land, gets some of his military contacts, and then everybody ends up being the like third and fourth wave and everything else.
Yeah.
So in a crazy, weird, you could call it coincidence, a little bit redemptive, but Reed's still kind of a shyster. But he had his family stuck there.
Yeah.
So he was.
It was poetic justice.
He gets to save his family.
Yeah,
And
it was
he wanted
justice.
to save, but he was able then to come back and save his family. So them deciding, no, we're not gonna kill him.
Yeah.
And we're gonna banish him instead. Ended up saving their lives.
Sure.
A lot of their lives.
Sure. So
I
if you're
thought that
ever in a
was
situation
fascinating.
where you're gonna kill somebody or let them live, let them live.
Let them live.
Yeah.
Well, Franklin, though, he felt like he was going to die up there in part because of the way that he had treated Reed. And basically left, like, then he had to build a double cabin for for Reed's
Yeah, that was a good recall.
widow and stuff like that. It's just interesting.
Rem, did you end up figuring out the part of the book that I know I ended up telling you, but when you read it, did you already read it or did you read it after I told you?
I think I didn't stop and resonate on it like you did.
Okay.
And it didn't I heard it. I heard that part of the book. I didn't read that part. I was listening to it, and it was just one crazy thing after another that I think I blended in with the rest of the craziness. But when you texted it to me, I read the text over and over again to be like, "What on
One of the
earth?"
last reliefs goes back to one of the cabins, and this guy Keysburg, who was basically mooching off one of the
Dude,
families.
this guy sucked too.
We're pretty sure he killed one of the ladies to be able to eat her.
Tamzine, Donner.
Yes. So, but
not just that, but to also take all the Donner's stuff.
yes, yeah. So yeah, that's not even the well, they're both horrible, but yeah, basically this dude from the relief walks in this house, and this guy is just laying on top of this mountain of bodies, half-eaten brains everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's just like basically comatose from overeating these bodies. It's wild. It's so wild. And then he's like, "Oh, I can't believe you did this. I'm gonna kill you. Where's the stuff? Where's the stuff?" He's hiding all the things. He ends up showing him where it is. How do you feel like that guy felt when he found out everybody ate people and not just this guy?
Oh,
Because in the moment,
you're saying because that was a relief.
They already knew that the people had been eating people.
well, you think they showed up at camp? They're like, "Hey, by the way,
No,
let me."
this Keysburg guy killed them.
No. He's talking about.
I'm talking about the guy who
found
came
him.
to save him.
Yeah, the relief people knew that these people had been eating.
That was the
He-
first thing they said when they arrived.
That was the thing.
Oh,
that was the
really?
thing that.
But I
disturbed
don't
them
think
the-
they.
that was
I
the
don't
thing
think
that
they envisioned
disturbed
it like
them the
that.
most.
Yeah.
There's.
Okay.
I mean, they
But
probably.
it was obvious because somebody had been there. They left him and her and a
Yep.
few others there with him, and they came back, and it's just him, and all the Donner's stuff is gone.
I just.
He says they died.
No. I know they know that Keysburg was eating people.
Not just eating people. He killed them.
That too. Did they know that that the other people were also turning to cannibalism to survive?
Yes.
That's
You
what he
think
found out first. Is what Mark is saying. He's
Got it.
right.
They already knew that.
I just think it's funny if this is the first episode someone listens to. That's what I think is funny. I promise you, we
Ramos
don't
said-
talk this much about eating people in
This is
most of
running
the
By the
other
way,
episodes.
Marcus said 15 minutes ago, the whole episode doesn't have to be about cannibalism.
Since that time,
It really
that's
is.
all you talked about.
But it really is. Like, I'm looking over my notes and
No, there's some really
Man.
good. Once we get,
I
to
keep
hit,
trying to take us in a different direction.
once we get, I mean that. To be honest, what resonated with you, like, there's gonna be very few things that wasn't about cannibalism. However, once we get to the hidden gems, there's some really interesting little
Sure.
like tidbits in here.
What about this? I wrote down this question. There's a point at which they know they're going to run out of food, right? All these families, they're individual families. They're not a group. they have different amounts of animals and things left.
Mm-hmm.
And, they start negotiating essentially with one another. Like, hey,
to eat servants.
no, like to eat their oxen, to eat their livestock.
Yeah, he talks about the difference, stages.
But here, I wrote it down on page 126.
He basically goes, the farther out they are from you having a relationship, the more you want. So like you eat your oxen before your dogs before people. You eat servants before friends and friends before family. It's like a hierarchy.
That's not the hypothetical I'm talking about, though. I'm talking about Margaret Reed approached Franklin and Elizabeth Graves, right? Margaret was Reed, Margaret was his widow, they think now, at this point, approached Franklin and Elizabeth Graves and asked to buy some oxen. They must have flinched at the question. To surrender even a single animal would diminish the prospects that they, their 9 children, and their son-in-law would survive what lay ahead. So my question is like, one of the things that Frankl talked about in Man's Search for Meaning is when you're at your worst like this, the things that you do for other people really show up. Mm. But like, not everybody shared. Not everybody wanted to share. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It really struck me. I don't know if there's a conversation to be had there, but like, if you try to put yourself in that position, you've got your kids and your wife and your son-in-law to take care of. Like, do you let other people have your stuff?
Man, it is hard. But then it's like, there are so often times in this book where people are on one end of it, being the people that could give, and then a couple chapters later, they're in the same situation that they could have turned somebody away from. So you're not always thinking that far in advance. You're just thinking survive today, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was actually shocked how many people actually did take in others and share food and allow them to stay in their shelter, especially when they were at that.
They
first
didn't
camp.
at the end. Like these families were not all in the same boat.
Right.
Well, to your point, a lot of them were half-mile away from one another.
Even the families in the same cabins had different, like, because the chapter's called Christmas Feasts because the moms had actually saved some things to have a feast.
Before they started eating people, they were eating this like glue, oily substance.
They were recooking stuff left over
like
from
fats
the meat. Yeah.
And
well, they would even cook their buffalo skins.
Leather.
So they would have like their leather and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they would cook that and try to eat that because you can get some nutrition. I've seen people do that on Alone.
I can confidently say
they'll get a certain type of belt.
They exhausted every last.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
how long are they?
Cause
Naked and Alone? Naked and Alone or Naked and Afraid?
No. The show's called Alone.
Is it like Naked and Afraid?
We've talked about it on the podcast before, but on Alone, they go out in the wilderness, and there's like somewhere between 8 and 12 of them. They put them all in different spots, and they don't know they don't know these other people, who they are, or anything else. And you have to survive longer than everybody else, but you don't know when other people tap out.
Are you allowed to like mess with anybody else?
No. You don't know.
You don't know when they tap out.
You don't know when they tap out.
Is the camera on can they see the cameraman?
No, they literally film it all themselves.
They film it all themselves. So they could, like 11 of them could quit and one could go for a year.
Yeah, well, the longest I think it's gone is like 120 days.
Wow. And how bad did he beat number 2?
No. So
once you win, they let you know.
Once you win,
what they do is they'll do periodic like health checks. They do have them monitored, but they'll have these health checks. So they'll come out and like weigh them and make them. And these guys are just super skinny and stuff at this point in time.
But for me, it would be we talked about this before on Parasite. But for me, it would be the human interaction.
Yeah, that would be hard too.
When I get weighed in, I'd be like,
you guys should watch the show Alone. I'm serious. It's really good. But I don't remember.
They're cooking what they're cooking.
They'll cook their belt.
They'll cook their belt.
There's
and eat
people that I've seen on that show that they know that their belt, they're not going to need as much of their belt.
I'd make
so
my belt
they'll
out
have
of
a
crab
specific
legs.
type of belt, and then they know they can cut off pieces of it because they've gotten down so much in
Yeah,
size.
if you don't know the whole story of the Downer Predator, just trust me. They really they did every last resort they could before they
ate everything before.
Yeah, they really
totally. And can you imagine being stuck in these small cabins with that many children that
don't
are
even you can't even call it a cabin, right? Like it's not even like I think one of them was actually a cabin. One of them was like a roof with like a couple
Lean-tos
stilts
and stuff.
leaning on the side of a rock, like it.
Yeah, covered, like literally they were covered by the time people found them, because there were like 35 feet of snow. So they were literally like walking up. They would walk out the door of this thing up the snow to get outside.
When one of the relief parties got there, they were like, "Oh, there's nobody
is
here," and then
everybody?
people just started popping up like,
I mean, with
moles.
Elizabeth Graves, they had to go and like dig out her stuff to get her money before she left.
That's wild. We wanted to get into best quotes, hidden gems. Anything else before we move?
One last thing. I think the other thing that this isn't a quote. This is just a scene in chapter 9. He talks about a ridge that blocked their view, and if you take a route, basically it says this route blocked their view from essentially getting them to their destination
quicker.
Instead,
Yeah.
they turned the other direction, which ended up being their demise.
Yeah.
And all it was if they looked over what I assume was a couple feet worth of a ridge, because they couldn't, but they would see that
If they would have gone up on that ridge, they would have seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, like I never lived my life that way. Like what could have been, what if? I never lived my life that way. But in this story, it'd be really hard not to be very frustrated about that.
The last thing I just wrote down that I was really surprised or impressed by or whatever, these people were going through all this snow and everything else, just carrying kids. Yeah, like, and a lot of them were also starved and malnutrition and probably dehydrated at some level. I mean, I've been hiking before. Like, we were at Turkey Run a few weeks ago, and I carried my, 30-pound, almost 4-year-old, right? And I carried her for probably like a mile and a half, and I was feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these guys are carrying them through the mountains and the snow and everything else. And
People that weren't even related to them.
Yeah.
Like just doing it voluntarily.
Some voluntarily, some because they were paid, but still, like,
Yeah.
Did he describe what the
they're putting their
snowshoes were made
own.
of?
They're putting their own lives at risk.
Were they like tennis rackets?
So they made the cross strings were made out of like some stuff left over from the meat that they
It was
couldn't
just
eat
the hide.
anymore.
It was the hide.
Yeah.
The hide. Oh,
Yeah.
So how do they? It was just covering their shoes. It
No,
wasn't
no.
like
it was like the big. It was
It was like-
snowshoes.
yeah, it was like a
you
tennis
know.
racket.
Yeah, like a tennis racket.
Yeah.
One last thing for me, it was in The Revenant. The reason he survived, he gets helped out by an Indian.
Yeah.
Without the Indian tribes at the end, they would have never made it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would have never made it. This dude's literally carrying.
After they were thinking about eating the Indians they were with,
Yeah,
by the way.
right? Yeah.
Like right after.
Yeah.
In fairness, they were thinking about eating their mom at the same time. So when
No, but they were going to
Indians
kill
weren't
the.
too
They
much
were
of a
going to
stretch.
kill.
Yes,
the
they were going to kill the
Indians
Indian,
to eat them.
and they, whether they knew it or not, they ran. Right?
That would be. He did talk about this, but that would be weird. That like now you've eaten. All right, so you've eaten humans. You've already crossed that threshold. I think it'd be hard to like look around and not see food.
No,
Oh.
because
well, if you're not starving.
Well, they are starving.
yeah, well,
Oh, you mean while they're still on this journey?
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess you're right. Yeah,
Like
although I don't look at a cow and get hungry.
That's true.
we're not hungry.
But when
Even
I'm
if I
hungry,
was-
I don't look at a cow and think, man,
You're never as hungry. You've never been as hungry as they are.
that's true. When I'm hungry and I see a burger, I'm like, I would smash that burger.
But that's my point.
So
Is
if I
like
see a cow, I would smash that cow. Hey, so to your point about the Indians, though, so like how many Indians had to die? Like in 1840, this is a quote from chapter 4. In 1849, the graves average were every 200 feet on the trail. People died by the thousands. So if you flash back, I wonder like how many Indians had to die from these same elements for them to figure out all these different remedies.
Well,
We have no records of that.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We don't know what their lifespans were. We don't have any idea.
I know. It's just crazy.
But they had been living in that area, in those tribes, whether it was nomadic or whatever, for a long time.
How'd
So-
they get here?
I don't know.
This is an educational podcast, Megan.
Tower of Babel.
Tower of Babel. We're going with that one.
Boom.
Best quotes, hidden gems.
I have lots of quotes.
Let's rock and roll with quotes, Mangus.
Are we doing both?
Yeah, let's do
All right.
let's merge.
Are we
them.
doing
mix and
ratings right
match.
now? Let's
Oh
just
my
go whatever.
goodness.
Let's just rate it
Wow.
right now.
Best quotes, hidden gems. Hit us with them.
Are you starting?
No, you can start. I'm
Oh,
gonna
okay.
figure
Hidden
out
gem.
which of these I'm going to
So
actually say.
here's my hidden gem. St. Joe, the pricing for removing a tooth, 50 cents. $5 for fingers, toes, $10 for arms to be amputated. They literally had signs
Yeah.
because of like brutal winters where people would get frostbite, and it started off as teeth, but then they're like, well, people need other things removed too, so let's
Yep.
make $1 on it, and that's how much it costs. Those are real
Holy
prices
cow.
that were on the sign.
Yeah. On that same note, just talking about how terrible things were and how tough this was in the Pioneer, children fell under wagon wheels and were crushed to death or crippled for life. They wandered off into the tall grass and were never seen again. Occasionally, they were abducted by Native Americans. Much more frequently, they drowned when swept away by the rivers that their families were trying to ford. Drowning incidents were so common, in fact, that some mothers wrote the children's names in indelible ink on labels and sewed the labels into their children's clothes.
To identify them?
Yeah.
I don't think I would just stop crossing rivers at that point.
They
like,
can't stop crossing rivers if they're going to make it.
Not an option.
There's rivers.
okay,
You know,
you
on
can
the way to
hang out with
California.
Reed the rest of your life, or you can cross this river. What you doing? You know,
Malaria, man.
I'm done being
Malaria.
A
No,
I'm
it wasn't
done being
that.
a pioneer
it
at that
was,
point.
It was that it was the land of milk and honey.
Also true.
It wasn't.
Oh, you
because-
didn't
they
say
didn't leave
honey.
because
They-
of the malaria.
I didn't know there was honey involved. I
They-
love me some honey.
They boiled quarts of water down to pints to make them stronger. My question for you is, what are we doing now that will get laughed at in 100 years?
Hold on. I missed this quote. So they boiled it
They
down to
boiled
make
quarts
the
of water
water
down to points to make the water stronger.
pints to make
Well,
the water
to make-
stronger.
to make the medicine stronger. Like they would put they said they would put like spider cobwebs and stuff like that
Yes.
in there.
Oh, that's
So
good.
what are we doing right now in 2024 that will get laughed about in
Podcasts. You spent your time doing what? And people listened?
Yeah, listening to podcasts.
Marcus was saying he was traveling, and he was what were you? You were at Columbus, and you're like, you
Yeah.
realized after reading a book that
Well, I had been working all day.
Yeah.
So like I got up, I left here at 5 or 5:30, something like that. I get there, I do several meetings in Columbus, Ohio. It's 3 hours away. And then I'm leaving Columbus, Ohio at 4 o'clock or whatever. And I'm listening to a book, and I'm realizing I'm not really even listening to this right now. I just need something that I can listen to that's mindless. And I was like, man, I wish I hadn't listened to all the episodes of The Cover already.
yeah, he's like his quote was, "This
Completely
is when
mi-
people listen to us. It's just
Yeah.
mindless entertainment."
Hidden gem. I never realized the reason for no smiles during photos back in the
Oh,
day.
Because
yeah.
they didn't have any teeth.
Their teeth were just in an issue. Their teeth were an issue.
They were an issue.
One of my favorite quotes. And does Daniel James Brown does he narrate this as well? Is he reading it?
I have no idea.
So this was said perfectly. He says,
I
On
read
Oc-
most of this one.
on October 10th, Elizabeth Graves' 46th birthday. It wasn't much of a birthday.
Yeah.
To say the least.
I read this paragraph and I just thought this was awesome. This was just a perfect, or not perfect, but it's just one of his great paragraphs. This is just as it starts to snow, right? They know they're just starting to understand they're gonna get stuck. A few hours later, the leading edge of the new storm slid in over the jumble of granite peaks just to the west of them. Snow began to spiral silently down out of an utterly black, featureless sky. One by one, feathery flakes landed on cold blankets and buffalo robes, on sweat-slicked hair, on shoulders turned to the sky, on soft cheeks, each flake delicate and slight, but each lending its almost imperceptible weight to the horror of what was about to happen.
Mm-hmm. He did that a lot.
And that's how he ended part 2 of the book.
Yeah. Yeah. He did that a couple times with like certain chapters where he was like, little did they know they just met their demise, or
When you think about how quiet it is,
Yeah.
when it's like when you get a lot of snow,
yeah.
and you go outside, it's one of my favorite things about snow.
Oh, we didn't talk about
That's
snow
interesting.
blindness.
That's true, because like when it rains,
dampens-
it's loud, but when it snows, it's quiet.
Quiet because it dampens the sound.
Oh my gosh.
And so you think about that eerie quiet
yeah.
that foretells what's coming, and just the imagery there. I thought,
Yeah, man.
We didn't talk about snow blindness. That was pretty wild.
That's a hidden gem for me. So I have blue eyes, and blue eyes, I didn't know this, but I thought it was just me, but when I walk out and it's a sunny day and snow, I can't open my eyes. I literally can't. Like, I have to wear sunglasses. And the whole chapter on snow blindness.
Yeah, me too.
The most interesting thing about snow blindness, though, is that he was talking about how strong the eye is to heal itself. Like, all you have to do is stop looking and for a period of time, and it will eventually heal itself. Yeah. That was interesting.
As long as you don't go too long.
I mean,
is the impression I got.
But the amount of time that was too long was really long, like weeks of looking at the snow. But
Snow blindness, I had no idea.
Snow blindness.
Did you guys catch that we got another bear story? Did you guys remember this story?
About
they
the shot?
try to kill a
Oh,
bear.
Dar, you're gonna take my hidden gem.
You can take it.
Mine's gonna be different. I just thought it was super BA that he kept an extra bullet in his mouth to reload. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, he puts the first bullet in his mouth, the second bullet in the gun, so that it's ready and handy if he misses. That was cool.
Yeah, well, which would have been, I think, common practice at the time for people that were, good. But he hits this bear. I'm not going to read it, but it's a cool story. But I just thought it was neat because in The Revenant, he gets attacked by this bear, ends up taking the bear out, but the bear almost takes him out. In this case, Eddie shoots the bear, but they're using these little pebbles basically, right? And the bear charges him.
Yeah.
He gets the other ball in there, and then as the bear is getting up there, he sticks it in his chest and shoots him and kills him.
Yeah.
How in the world do you have the balls
to get that close?
To stand there as a bear is charging you and say, "Yeah, I'm going to get this in there in time to shoot you."
Yeah.
That's incredible.
You've never been as hungry as they have been. That might be what you need.
I mean, maybe. That's true.
Maybe he was so hungry he's like, I'm going to eat this bear.
I mean, I thought that was cool.
This has got to be... Are you done with that?
No.
This has got to be one of the funniest hidden gems. The same month that Sarah approached the Rocky Mountains, her hometown newspaper, the Illinois Gazette, published some handy rules for wives. Among these, a good wife will always receive her husband with smiles, leaving nothing undone to render home agreeable and gratefully reciprocate kindness and attention. She will study to discover means to gratify his inclinations in regard to food and cooking, and the management of her family, in her dress, manner, and deportment. She will in everything reasonably comply with his wishes, and as far as possible anticipate them. So which ones of these rules do we like the best? Is what I wrote down. These were the rules Sarah and Jay and most of the contemporaries took for granted, but there were rules for husbands too. A good husband will always regard his wife as his equal, treat her with kindness, respect, and attention, and never address her with an air of authority as if she were, as some husbands appear to regard their wives, mere housekeepers. That one's a lot more gentle and for modern day here. The first one was pretty aggressive. I laughed pretty hard. I was on the treadmill and I had to stop. I was laughing so hard. I was like, man. Got to read that on the show.
Yeah, that was
Either
good.
I'll beat you or I will die on this treadmill.
Yeah.
It's not like
Will
Will
Smith.
Smith.
that was like the best motivational video of the 2010s.
That was good.
All right, I got a made Marcus cry.
Ooh.
So, Reed was banished, comes back. He's part of the second relief.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'll just read it because I
It's gonna be really awkward if you cry on the show.
underlined it. I'm probably not going to cry now, but I teared up a little bit when I was reading it. But he said Reed saw his daughter Patty sitting atop the cabin with her feet resting on the snow. When he saw that it was when she saw that it was her father who was approaching, Patty Reed ran towards him but fell face first into the snow. Reed bent and scooped up his daughter out of the snow and embraced her quickly. Then he plunged into the dank depths of the cabin where he found his son Thomas alive, but asleep on a bed of pine boughs. As Reed later reported to a writer named J.H. Merriman, he was that afternoon, quote, in raptures. And I just thought, man, you've been gone for this long. You probably thought they were dead. You know that people are eating people. Like, are my kids even there? Is it all the stuff that I'm doing worth it? And then you see them there.
Mm.
And you're able to pick them up in your arms. And, like, I have kids. I have daughters this age.
Do we know something I was shocked by? I feel like half of the party made it eventually.
He has
I don't know
the
about
total
half.
number.
He actually did the total.
I
in the
remember
back.
being astonished at how high the number was. Even if it was a quarter, I would have been blown away. I feel like it was close to half. Did most of Reed's family that he came back and got, did they all make it? Do you remember?
I couldn't tell you that.
Yeah, his story's pretty
You
crazy.
have to read the book, I guess.
Yep.
Chapter
Chapter 7
try
was
to find the exact
a really cool one for me. So one funny and one serious. One of the quotes says, "They all sat down to dinner with bread and dog." So that was the beginning. That's when I knew it was like, okay, I guess the rest of the book is downhill from here. No, so the smart one, the interesting one, it was, and I was looking for the actual quote because it's a little bit longer than this, but it was a decisive leader, or all decisive leadership helps any group avoid catastrophe.
Yeah.
I think that is the mark of a truly great leader, is bold decision making quickly. Like, you've done enough research, you've done your homework, and you know who you are and what lens you're looking through the world. When tough things happen, you make a bold decision quickly. It's not always the right one, but you stand by your decisions, and that helps you avoid catastrophe. The worst thing you can do is sit on it and think about it too long. I firmly believe that.
That is he was speaking on Franklin Graves.
Yeah.
And the quote associated with Franklin Graves is, "Perhaps most important, he didn't give a damn what others thought about him."
Yep.
And I think you need a spark of that as well, of like,
Yeah, that's made in America.
yeah.
Sam Walton.
I've done the research. I know where I stand. You can stay wherever you want to, but we're moving this way.
You wrote that quote down too?
I did.
I did too. I thought this was good when they get back. So, not back, when they get to California. This is John Breen, who had just turned 15 when he arrived, recalled the first California dawn. It was early morning. The weather was fine. The ground was covered with fine green grass. There was a very fat beef hanging from the limb of an oak tree. The birds were singing from the tops of the trees above our camp. The journey was over. I kept looking on the scene, and I could scarcely believe that I was alive. The scene from that morning seems to be photographed on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't imagine that after November, December, January, February, 4 months of hell.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, there's been moments where I'm sure we've all had our families in high anxiety situations where our kids really don't know what's going on. They like
Disney World? You talking about Disney?
whatever. They just don't get it. They're whatever. Can we have hot dogs for lunch? Like, they don't know what's going on.
Oh, I get
You know?
Yeah.
Do you think some of these children, like Reed's, fully understood what was happening at 4, 5, 6 years old? Like, did they get to California and they're just like, all right, this is where we're living now. Hey, what school am I going to, or what? Like, what? I don't know.
No.
They saw way more than any other 4,
No,
5,
I mean,
6-year-olds.
when you're, was it this book? Basically, when you're 5. Oh no, it was just a reel that I saw was basically talking about when you're 5, a month is like a much bigger percentage of your life than when you're 50, and so that is your reality. Like that. No, I don't think they knew. I think that this is what life is.
This is just what life is.
Yeah, this sucks, but this is what life is.
Well, and a big portion of their life would have been the traveling and lots of people dying. And
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, he talks about the PTSD associated with that, like for kids and stuff as well.
Hiring women.
Yeah. So you asked about how many people. In the end, of the 87 people who emerged from the Wasatch Mountains as official members of George Donner's company, so those would be the people that made it through the Wasatch Mountains portion.
Yeah.
Right? As a member of his company, 47 died as a result of the tragedy.
So out of 87 that entered, 47 died.
Yeah.
So I mean, even
So
40 out of
40
87, that shocked me. Like that number felt big.
Yeah, because when you're in it, you're like, everyone's dying.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to die.
Yeah.
And it fell disproportionately on males.
Yes.
What you were reading earlier, I was in chapter 13, near the end of the book, one of the daughters is talking. She goes, if I could cry, I would. If I could forget everything, maybe I would cry. And it reminded me of a conversation I had with my grandma. She has 3 or 4 family members that died before the age of 46. Her mom was in a mental institution, died early. Her brother died early, and she saw so much death. And she's very sweet, and she loves me, but like she's not affected like anyone else that I've ever seen, just because that was life. Like she's the anomaly living into her 80s, and she just talks about it differently. That I immediately thought of that when I read that quote. If I could cry, I would.
Couple more hidden
gems,
gems
quotes.
that I had. I liked when he talked about when he sold his farm originally, the one in Illinois. Said neither Franklin Graves nor anyone else on the Illinois frontier was fool enough to take government paper money in exchange for land. So he had like all sorts of different stuff. He had U.S. half dollars, French 5 franc pieces, Spanish dollars, Bolivian dollars, Saxon 5 mark piece, some dating back to 1806.
Well, that's what he had
physical
in the cleats of his wagon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But he didn't take paper money, the government paper money, because
that's how they get you.
Oh yeah.
Same, all crypto.
Oh, yeah, that was Bitcoin. That was Bitcoin 1846.
Well, it kind of. I actually wondered because I was thinking like, what are the things that are the pioneer stuff now? Because they did make it through.
Mm-hmm.
They did. Like,
I mean, crypto is pioneer. I mean, that is an element of pioneering.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The people that made it, like some people completely died, right?
Yeah.
But the people that made it through were set.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I actually thought of
okay. Set financially.
Yes.
But they have to live for the rest of their lives. Every single day. Knowing that they ate their mom.
Do we know, is there anybody that survived not resorting to cannibalism?
Well, they all would have. They all ate.
We know that?
The kids didn't.
That was my question. Did Sarah? Did it ever say?
All know that they
Sarah
were eating
did.
people.
Sarah finally did. That's why that was unclear to me.
She did.
In the way he
did,
wrote it. So she finally just resorted to it.
She did. She did after her dad begged them to, but she didn't eat her dad. She ate one of the other people.
Reed probably didn't.
The 2 Indians didn't.
Huh?
That were the guides. Well, Reed never had to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There were some people that made it without.
Last thing I had was that lady whose husband died. He killed her husband in cold blood, and he was found guilty. She made food for him every single day while he was in jail.
Yeah, so he wouldn't die in jail.
To ensure that he would be hung.
Mm-hmm.
That's cold.
That is cold.
That's cold. That's some vengeance.
A woman scorned.
Okay. On that note, did you guys
they
catch
killed her
when
husband?
they just landed at this camp, and in the notes, like nobody said why, but they just called it the Mad Woman Camp.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious because I just imagine just all the women being mad at us for something, and I can imagine like what those things would be like, but it just cracks me up to just say, I'm not saying what happened here, but we're gonna call it the Mad Woman Camp.
So, because you called out the Mad Woman Camp, the starving camp, they got there and there was a hole in the snow.
Yeah.
From their fire. That was, of all the camps, the one that like I was in trying to picture in your head. You can't get a really good, because the way they describe it, the way I was picturing is they have this fire and everybody's around the fire to stay warm to survive.
Yeah.
And it's slowly sinking in 20 feet of snow,
Mm-hmm.
lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. But then this whole family is down there.
Yep.
Can't get out. But I guess they can get out because they end up getting out to.
Yeah.
But it was just the.
Well, it's not super different than the cabins. Like they've got to make essentially stairs to get out.
Yeah.
But it was just a wild scene.
Yeah.
Very wild
Well,
scene.
yeah, like people were getting so close, they're like falling into the fire and not even knowing.
But not realizing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another hidden gem I had was they knew that they had to start getting rid of things because their oxen and stuff weren't going to make it, their horses or whatever. So they're just like throwing stuff on the side of this trail.
Yeah.
Right? And do you guys remember there was one guy, do you remember what he wouldn't leave or didn't want to leave? Nope.
That was a different thing, but yeah.
Different thing, yeah. His rolling pin. And so they christened him Rolling Pin Smith. And I just thought that was hilarious. Like, what a stupid nickname.
He was a baker?
Huh?
He was a baker?
I don't know. Do I have to throw this away? It was my mother's. I remember she always used it to roll out her biscuits, and they were awfully good biscuits.
Oh.
He had to leave it, and they christened him Rolling Pin Smith.
The one that.
A name that he carried to the day of his death.
You think he knew?
How embarrassing.
One of the last groups to leave, this girl would not leave her brother's violin or something.
Yeah.
She's holding a kid in one hand and a violin in the other.
Yeah.
What? My goodness.
Would you watch this movie? I don't think I would. I don't think I could. I don't think I want to spend another minute on this this book.
I think I'd rather read the book than watch the movie.
Dude, I got to be honest.
But it did mess with me for
this
a
book
few days.
was so graphic, and the way the book could mess with you more than just watching a movie. I mean, this is a
Well, it prolongs it for
Yeah.
sure.
All right, last one I had was that he said he was telling about Christmas, and how it was just starting to take off, like as a holiday
right. In America. It was
stuff
that
like
was cool.
It was just starting to take off. He said, page 170.
Yeah, he was describing how like the tradition started, where like at first it was. Are you going to actually read the whole thing where he describes it?
No. I was just gonna read this part.
I was waiting for the part where he
specifically.
talks about when people decided, hey, we're going to chop down the tree and put it in our house and put lights on it. Like he didn't get that.
He did say that Christmas trees. He said when they come into play, but he said as late as 1869, school children in Boston could still be expelled for skipping school on Christmas Day. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, I missed that.
1869. And then, and this is going to prompt one of our next episodes, but he talks about how when Charles Dickens, immensely popular in America, published A Christmas Carol in 1843, it infused the American imagination with a revival of English traditions then underway in Victorian England.
Yeah, you could say he even, like, from the way he writes that, it's almost like Charles Dickens created tradition for Christmas in America.
Well, kind of, because the Puritans, they weren't really about
They were trying to get away from
anything.
everything, and they were trying to get away from English tradition.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of it was English tradition, and we don't
Well, and
good or bad, we just don't want anything to do with
well, that and they felt like it got away from being like the King's way wasn't the Christian way. It wasn't
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think there are arguments to be made that there are many facets of Christmas that put our emphasis on the wrong side, but
For sure.
rating time.
Oh, boy.
1 to 9. A lot of things go into this. I'm not pre-defending my rating, but just to remind, this is
I'm not pre-defending my rating, but I'm definitely
doesn't seem like it, Brett.
pre-defending my rating.
tough. I mean, I listened. Rem and I were talking where it's like you would like listen for a certain amount of time. You're like, I gotta listen to something different,
Dude,
for
guys,
a little bit.
I normally listen to my books when I'm driving, mowing the lawn, and eating. I could not listen to this book when I was eating.
Yeah, no kidding.
Not one single meal could I listen to this book.
It was even like if I had a long road trip and I'd be like, all right, I need to get my mindset somewhere else. Yeah, I can't do this. I'm a 7. I'm a 7.
I am also a 7. I'm a 9 for the writer. I'm going to keep reading
Yes.
his stuff. Hopefully there's less cannibalism in the next book.
He's a great writer.
But I'm going to read all his work now. It's solidified that, yes, I love this writer. I'm going to
Yes.
start reading all his books. But a 7 for the... I'm not going to read this book again.
No.
8.1.
Yeah. I'm not mad about an 8. I'm not going to argue an 8.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was very, very good.
Very well done. Just not the topic that I'm excited to read about. Or
Well, that's
recommend.
why when I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that Rem picked this.
I thought it was about the gold rush. Sorry, guys.
It was the pre-gold rush.
It was.
They
It was.
made money on the gold rush.
Hey, we've got some happy-go-lucky episodes coming
We
up.
do. We do. Well,
Well,
we got Dead Poets Society first.
Oh, man. I forgot about that one. I didn't choose that one.
you said happy-go-lucky.
Happy-go-lucky. Dead Poets Society.
it's
Why
the-
would that be? Of all the ones you
it's
could
the-
have said just now, why would that be the
It's
first one?
It's the Gold Rush before the Gold Rush. Dead
Jeez,
Poets
oh,
Society.
Peters.
Then we got Hoosiers to
Okay,
kick
there
off.
we go.
Kick
Yeah.
off IHSAA basketball.
Yeah.
The postseason. We got sectionals and whatnot coming up.
Welcome to Indiana High School basketball.
That's
Yeah.
right. We got Big Short.
Oh.
Big Short, one of my favorites, and
I
one of the
love
Rem's favorites
that
as well.
Very good movie.
And then we've got our Christmas lineup for December. We got A Christmas
Oh, you're
Carol.
going to give it away?
Oh, you're
yeah.
going to tell them all?
my.
Or I could not.
No, it's fine. Go for it.
I
think
mean,
people. I think that the people that I've heard that are seeing our schedule ahead of time and they're reading or watching
Yeah.
it before the
A
episode.
lot of people are.
Yeah.
A Christmas Carol.
We're
Dickens,
reading.
So we're reading that. We got, and then each of us picked one Christmas
We're
movie.
reading it, but we're also going to watch some of the depictions, right? Because we're going to watch some of the Christmas carols as well.
I was just gonna read it.
Really?
I was just gonna
All
do
right,
the
I guess I'll
book
do that
since we're
alone.
covering the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could do a lot. Rem's pick for Christmas, 4 Christmases.
That's a good
Can't
one.
wait.
Oh, that's such a good one. Vince Vaughn plays Vince
What
Vaughn
made you
in
think?
every movie.
Marcus's pick for Christmas, Die Hard.
Christmas movie, great Christmas movie.
And my pick for Christmas, one of my favorite movies of all time, It's a Wonderful Life. And that's that'll bring
Are you
us
gonna give
to
that one a 9?
Christmas Day.
Will that be
that
your first?
one's
Is that gonna be your
If
first?
I had to rate right now, 9. Done for
But you
sure.
haven't, but you
Watch
haven't
them
watched
pick it apart and be like, you know what? This movie's not as good as I
But
thought.
you know, once you're picking
Once
it
you're a
apart,
critic, once Khan is on the line.
Oh, yeah.
Once Khan's on the line, you're
Yeah.
not just giving everybody.
We've
a
got
9.
a good 6 months before we get invited to con, so we really need to step up our game.
Am I the
How
Simon
did we
Cowell?
miss the Indie Film Festival? By the way,
Because you sent it to us after it happened.
I didn't know it was happening.
Yeah.
We
I
need
think we
somebody
might be
to-
too big for Indie
I think
Film
we're a little
Festival.
too big for the Indie
Yeah.
Film Festival.
Am I the Simon?
I mean, have we covered one Indie Film Festival film?
Am I the Simon Cowell of our group? Would I be known as Simon?
I guess so. You're
I
flamboyant
think Simon
enough.
brings the best out of people.
Yeah.
He's the most J.K. Simmons-esque whiplash.
So you're saying that weren't you the one that said you're too soft on people?
yeah, I'm learning.
That makes Marcus
podcast is-
Paula.
Yeah, you're Paula Abdul.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Have you guys ever seen me dance?
Oh, you're definitely Randy Jackson.
You're Steven Tyler. Name the worst. You know, Ellen was there once. Marcus is Ellen.
Have you
I'm
seen
Ellen.
Ellen's special since she got canceled?
No.
She got canceled.
This is Kelsey's favorite. Are you serious?
I don't watch.
Kelsey watches, like it's a daytime show. She watches.
No,
Oh.
this is what I was gonna say is this is Kelsey's favorite part of the podcast where we talk about absolutely nothing. I'm kidding.
No,
Oh, that's
but-
good because I was about to make a stay-at-home mom joke.
Okay, so I'm a big PTI fan. Pardon the interruption. One of my favorite parts is when they're going to commercial break and Tony and Michael just are arguing about something like as friends.
Yeah.
Going to commercial, I'm like, that's like my favorite.
Oh, that's good.
I
That's
would
good.
I would pay an extra couple bucks a month to get access to their entire conversation during the commercial break on
Oh
something like
my
Patreon.
gosh.
Actually,
Oh wow.
I would
Man.
do that.
I should
Holy
do that.
cow! Are you a host?
I think he's got it. I think he's got it, guys. We got a couple different tiers of Patreon.
Patreon?
Yeah.
We're on Patreon?
Hey, we are.
Rem said
Yeah,
we're going to be on Patreon. Rem's VA created it for us. It's good. It's
Actually,
really good.
Rim's VA doesn't know about this. Rim
Wow.
did this himself.
Whoa.
Patreon.com / or forward slash.
Slash,
I always
whatever
say
whatever,
backslash.
Whatever a
slash
slash.
makes
Whatever
sense.
slash makes sense.
Yep.
But I think it's forward slash. The cover pod.
The cover pod.
Yeah.
So Patreon,
Give us money. We'll give you
Patreon.com
things.
/ the cover pod.
Yeah, we're thinking, hey, we're putting a lot of this out there. We know you guys like to engage with us in different ways. We also would love to continue to upgrade. But all of that costs money and takes time.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a part of that with us, then we invite you
Check
to
it out.
do
We'd
you wanna
love
see what we
to,
look like, go to Patreon.
We'd love to have you. Rem will post some of his favorite Thanksgiving recipes this month.
We're gonna.
I do host for Thanksgiving. I'm very good at it. I like to deep fry a turkey and then
Lobster
smoke.
Mac. Lobster
Oh
Mac
my
needs to be
gosh.
coming.
We
Lobster
might send you a framed copy of the picture of Remington and braces and
man.
frosted tips.
Yes. Don't forget what are they called again? The necklace?
Puka
Puka.
shells.
Oh, yeah,
Puka
the
shells.
puka shells.
Yes.
Oh man.
I think they still sell those at what was the name of that?
They shouldn't allow 7th graders to have headshots. Like, there should be a certain set of years.
PacSun. Did you shop at PacSun? PacSun was my go-to.
No, Hot Topic.
Oh,
Wait, what are you talking about?
it's weird. Where you shopped in middle
Yeah,
school?
Hot
You
Topic.
were a Hot Topic person.
Well, yeah, because you got your band T-shirts at Hot Topic. Not the same as Spencer Gifts. Do not take your kid into Spencer Gifts.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take my kid into either, but I'm boring.
True.
So.
True.
PacSun. I was skater shoes, baggy pants.
Oh yeah, Vans.
Yeah. I was an Osiris guy.
Osiris.
Big
I like the beer.
big shoes. All right, gang. We'll see you next time. Dead Poet Society. Then Hoosiers.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
A little bit
Exactly.
of happy-go-lucky. Dead Poet Society.
Yeah. See you then.